Hello, my name is Ryan Van Brunt, and tonight I'm addressing the board about a grant for 50/50 ownership and community risk reduction within the district of Metro Fire. First of all, in order for the board to better understand, I would like to explain the concept of community risk reduction and the value that it has on the community. Community risk reduction is a term that the fire service uses in order to mitigate certain hazards that we know are present all the time. So things like this include airports, rivers, wildland urban interfaces, and areas that store massive amounts of hazardous materials. But it could be even something as small as apartment buildings with a high population density or freeways. And we use this large term to identify that these areas are always posing a certain type of risk, and that as firefighters, we need to be aware of that. And we can pre-plan some of the mitigation techniques that we need to use in order to be more effective in taking care of emergencies that involve these certain areas. The value of being able to do this is that we're basically ahead of the curve on handling emergencies as they pop up in these certain areas. The types of data that we can use for our types of risk assessment are our computer automated dispatch numbers. So we can pull up the amount of dispatches to certain locations of incidents throughout the year or over the last 5 years and compare that to other places to determine where the risk for these different areas, what the risk entails, and how likely we are to go to these sorts of incidents. We can also use things such as past green sheets, particularly in the wildland urban interface, in order to provide us with more information and try and pick out similarities inside of our own first in area and our own county, and try and mimic the different areas that are seen where other hazards have been identified and firefighters have actually been hurt. And then we can also use items like a determining the level of risk chart. And this is a chart that determines how high the risk is based on certain things like how likely the event is to happen and what the consequence of the event happening is. Tonight, I would like to specifically talk about the American River as it runs through the center of our district and is a major hazard for the public and for fire service personnel. And it is a big risk and the one that we want to focus on tonight. There are, of course, many people on the river, especially during the summertime, but really all year round. It's a parkway, it's a walkway. People are fishing, people are boating, people are enjoying nature. There are houses that run along the parkway, which prevents a wildland urban interface issue. So fire spread, especially with the amount of homeless and the amount of fires that they create and get loose and cause damage. There's also a swift water component, obviously, with the water. And then we have also a risk of putting our boats on the water because we cannot necessarily see everyone that's always in the river, and that becomes a danger in itself. The estimated cost of running emergencies on the parkway is about $3 million a year. Ways that we can mitigate this risk include fuel reduction as far as fire hazard. We can issue life jackets to people at the riverbanks in order to prevent medical aids and drownings. We can pre-position our boats during heavy use times of the year. And we can assign our boats, instead of being a respond as needed, to being fully staffed. We can increase our patrol of the rivers if those boats are full-time staffed in order to help mitigate and educate the public on the dangers of the river. Obviously, the grant proposed is a 50-50 split. The cost of the community risk reductions value is approximated at $1 million that the district would pay, which means that the county would, through the grant, would also pay $1 million. And these will help mitigate all of those issues for such a high level of risk within the county. So thank you for allowing me to present tonight, and I hope you guys make the good decision on approving this grant.